This is the Irish and Celtic Music Podcast, show number 737. I am your host, Mark Gunn, and I'm also host of Pub Songs and Stories. This show is for fans of Celtic music, and I am really excited to share a very special interview, not one, but two very special interviews I did from a couple of amazing Celtic bands who just released albums in the past few months. And I'm really excited to share these with you. The first up on the list is a longtime band with the podcast. It is the Gothard Sisters. And without further ado, here's my interview with Greta of the Gothard Sisters. All right. I am so excited to talk with Greta of the Gothard Sisters. The Gothard Sisters have been on the podcast forever. And they've even hosted an episode of the show. They've done stories, but I realize I never have actually interviewed y'all. So welcome, Greta. How are you doing?
Thank you so much. I'm doing wonderfully. And it's so good to be on the Irish and Celtic Music Podcast, finally.
Yeah. Finally, she says, as we did our own episode.
Yeah.
But I have loved watching and hearing how y'all have developed over the past 15, 16 years since you started on the show. Did we ever figure that out? Was it 2009 or 2010?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to calculate. Technically, we decided we've been a band for almost, next year will be 15 years, but really it was before that. So that's when we sort of started gigging professionally together, but we've been making music together before that. So I think Story Girl maybe was the first album that was on the podcast. So that was released in 2011.
Kind of feel like there was one before that. There was before maybe. Story Girl. Because y'all have been an inspiration for me because, as a podcaster and seeing the power of the podcasting community, and I'll tell you why. And that is because, years ago, y'all got on released an album and you sent it to me, and it was, it was a very, very nice, lovely music. But then Story Girl came out and I was like, oh, this is really good. And then I forget what the next album was, but you got to the next album and the next one and then the next one. And every time it's gotten better and better and better music. And I've seen you grown from this, three-piece, fiddle group, or violin, maybe you could say, group into, these incredible multi-instrumentalists and brilliant performers performing all around the world. So let's step back and find out a little bit about the Gothard Sisters. Can you tell me how it all began?
Well, sure. So we're the Gothard Sisters, and we are actually sisters. Some people want to know, but yes, we're all sisters, and we spent a lot of time together growing up, but we were all sort of pursuing music separately. We were taking, we were doing classical violin for many years, and we were also competing in Irish step dancing. So cool. We were doing those activities kind of separately, like Irish dances, different age groups, and we were different levels on violin. And so we were pursuing those things at the same time, but we hadn't really played music together. So the Gothard Sisters really formed when I was playing a lot of classical music gigs. I had a string quartet in Seattle. And so we were playing a lot of weddings and different events. And then all of my friends kind of left the area to go to university. And so I didn't have anybody to play with anymore. And so I looked around and I was like, oh, wow, Willow and Solana both play violin. Maybe we could do gigs together. And so that's when we kind of started doing like official professional things together. But before that, we have always done little productions and musical things together. So it was a very natural thing, but it wasn't ever really intended to be a career together. We just started playing gigs together, and then we started arranging more Celtic music because we wanted to incorporate the Irish dancing. And we were also getting pretty obsessed with Celtic music at that point, and we loved listening to it all the time. So we really wanted to play it. And so we kind of fell into Celtic music almost by accident, but we just love it so much. It ended up being the kind of music that we really wanted to play first and then eventually start writing it.
What got you started in Celtic music?
Well, I think probably the first exposure to it was Riverdance.
Yeah.
Because Riverdance came out when I think I was like 12 or something. And my mom brought home the VHS of Riverdance and put it on. And we loved it so much. And we were just like dancing around in the living room, copying everything. And so, first of all, it was the inspiration to start Irish dancing. And then from Irish dance, we got more and more exposed to the musical side and just loved it. And so we all started fiddling, and I learned guitar, and we started adding all these other instruments. And we were doing a lot of classical music, but unfortunately that sort of like took a back seat, and we went all in on Celtic music. Was there a defining moment when all of a sudden you said, let's go Celtic? Not really. It was just sort of a natural slide. It was the music that we really enjoyed playing. And I think we all love classical music, but when you get very high up in it and it gets very technical and competitive, sometimes it can stop being as fun, and it's not as connected to, like, I think what the purpose of music is. And that was just me personally. I felt that with Celtic music, I really understood kind of what music was about and what I should be doing with it. That's awesome. Well, let's hear a track from the new album, A Moment in Time. So we'll start it off, and this is the title track. Is that what we're going to start with? It is the title track. Yeah, Moment in Time. All right, here's Moment in Time.
Moment in Time is the newest album from the Gothard sisters, and I'm really excited that it just came out in October. Can you, what was the inspiration behind the album? Why did this album get made?
Well, so Moment in Time is our it's our third all original album. And so this one kind of came about after it had been a certain length of time since Dragonfly. We wanted to do another original album, but the way we put our albums together is very sort of slow and gradual. We come up with one or two songs at a time, and then the album sort of forms around those songs. So Moment in Time was not the first song on the album, but it was pretty close. It was the first vocal song on the album, and it was just something that I've been thinking about a lot, which is just kind of all the infinite possibilities in a moment, and that you're never quite the same from year to year. Even a month ago, I can think back and think maybe a month ago I wasn't really even the same person as I am now, and I find that kind of fascinating. But also, the seasons are always changing, and we recently did a tour in Japan again, and there's a phrase there that is Ichigo Ichie, which is basically, it's very similar to Moment in Time, but it means one moment, one meeting. And I really like that idea that you're going to meet even somebody you know very well. Every time you meet them, it's slightly different because you're always changing. And I really liked that idea. So that was sort of the inspiration behind Moment in Time. And then the rest of the album ended up being a little bit about time in most of the songs. And so that sort of formed as the theme.
Now, it's interesting that the album starts with a vocal song. I feel like your past few albums have started with instrumentals. Now, I know, I think from the website, you said you write the songs, right? Can you tell me about who's singing and about the rest of your sisters?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Greta, and I'm the oldest sister, and I do a lot of the lyric writing and some of the music and compositional side. And then my two sisters, Willow is the middle sister, and she is the lead fiddle player in the band. And she also does a lot of our recording. She actually recorded and mixed this album.
Oh, wow.
And does a lot of work with the arrangement. And then Solana is our youngest sister, and she's the lead vocalist. And she also plays bowron and a bunch of different percussion instruments, as well as whistle and fiddle.
Awesome. I love that y'all have developed your own special traits, the things that you do. We talked about this, I think, on my Pub Songs podcast once. You talk about the different things that you do. Can you actually break down a little bit also what y'all do outside of the music? So you have the instruments, you got the and the vocals, but what else do y'all do?
Well, we are all Irish step dancers, so we occasionally, in the live show, we'll do some of that. But yeah, we also run a lot of the business side of things as well. So Solana does a lot of social media, and I run our email newsletter and the website and all those good things. And as I mentioned, Willow does a lot of the audio, the recording side of things, which is very nice. And Solana also helps. So she does some of the engineering as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And it's really fun. It's nice to sort of divide up the responsibilities, because it's a lot of work, and we enjoy it a lot, but it's useful to be able to share all of the things.
All right. So now make sure I got this straight. You have 3 tracks that are instrumental and 9 vocal tracks, which I feel like that's the most number of vocals you've had on, or compared to instrumentals on albums. Is that true, or am I just?
Yeah. It actually has 5 instrumentals,
okay.
But only 3 of them are the characters.
I see.
But there are 7 vocals, so that's a little more, because sometimes we would do 6 and 6.
Yeah.
But yeah,
what inspired why more songs versus tunes?
That's an interesting question. Yeah, I think we just, as we're putting the album together, we're listening through. So sort of interesting thing about this album is the track list is actually the order that we made the songs up in. So Moment in Time was first, and then Adventure, and it kind of goes down from there, which doesn't always happen. So that was kind of interesting. So as we were coming up with 2 songs at a time, we would be like listening through the album and thinking, oh, what could come next? What would be a nice mood after this? Yeah. And as we kind of got down to the bottom, it was like, I think we need another vocal instead of another instrumental. So we were like kind of feeling through it like that. And I think that's how we ended up with more vocals. It was just what the album needed.
How do you go about writing songs?
That's a mysterious process.
Do you have a formula or a method that you've developed over time?
Every time I wonder if I have a method or not. But it has sort of come together a little more. Like when I'm trying to come up with a lyric song, usually I will put together a bunch of ideas of words that I like and like a feeling that I want it to have, or even like colors. And sometimes I'll like look at pictures on Pinterest or something and just like I'm looking for a mood. And I really can't write anything until I am solid on what the mood or the feeling is supposed to be. So usually it's a feeling first and then the words come later. But what I need usually is a chorus. So I will just like sit around until I have a chorus and then the verses will come later. But I really can't, it's not solid until there's a chorus.
What about the instrumentals? Do y'all compose those together, or who composes the instrumentals?
Well, the instrumentals are, I think they're a little more collaborative because it's, all the instruments have different melodies and stuff. But Willow does a lot of the tune writing. So if it's a tune set, she'll write the tunes. And then we'll gather the tunes and then we'll add like connective parts together. And then what we do for instrumentals and vocals is we will make a demo of the song on the computer and put the lead instruments on and most of the parts because it's already sort of put together, the order. And then we'll take turns arranging it. So it's sort of a fun process because we're not working on it at the same time. So when I get back to it after Willow and Salon have been working on it for a while, I'm like, oh, wow, this is like a totally different song now. So it's really fun because it's surprising and it means you get like the ideas sort of bounce off of each other. And so we'll add different parts and then we will sit around and listen to it and take stuff out. So that's a big part of the process actually that takes the longest time is we'll sit there and arrange it together at the end. So usually our albums are a mix of vocals and instrumentals. And so on this one, we ended up with 3 instrumentals that have related names and they're all dedicated to different sort of character traits or different characters, which we started having a lot of fun with. So the first one is Adventurer, which is the second track. And it's about, being adventurous. And the last instrumental is a tune called Healer, which is about healing and people who are, helping with healing. And then the third one is called Storyteller. And so that's the one we're going to play now. This one, we really wanted it to capture kind of the vibe of a storyteller, the spirit of a storyteller. And for the whole tune, even though it's instrumental, to sound like a story. So it kind of goes up and down and has all this drama and tension and release and contrast. So this is called Storyteller. So usually our albums are a mix of vocals and instrumentals. And so on this one, we ended up with 3 instrumentals that have related names and they're all dedicated to different sort of character traits or different characters, which we started having a lot of fun with. So the first one is Adventurer, which is the second track. And it's about, being adventurous. And the last instrumental is a tune called Healer, which is about healing and people who are, helping with healing. And then the third one is called Storyteller. And so that's the one we're going to play now. This one, we really wanted it to capture kind of the vibe of a storyteller, the spirit of a storyteller. And for the whole tune, even though it's instrumental, to sound like a story. So it kind of goes up and down and has all this drama and tension and release and contrast. So this is called Storyteller.
right, let's do some rapid fire questions. And I say rapid fire, you take your time. We're going to start. I want to know, name a Celtic album that inspired you.
Oh, well, there are a lot of them. I would say for me personally, but also for Willow and Solana, we're very inspired by Dougie MacLean and his writing. My favorite, probably, it's hard to pick a favorite album. I like New Tomorrow, has some of my favorite things on it. Perch for Amber is like a orchestral thing that he did that I really like. And of course, we love Enya. So Watermark, probably Day Without Rain. And then tune writing, we love Fluke and Brian Finnegan. Haven and Ancora are great albums. And then Brian Finnegan's solo album, The Ravishing Genius of Bones, that one's really good too. So all of those, love them.
What about an up-and-coming artist? I consider y'all an inspiration. So there are bound to be some other artists that are coming up and coming that you've heard and that you found as you've been out and about. Who are some artists that you really enjoy?
Well, it's hard to think of just one. There are a bunch of really wonderful artists. It's hard for me to call them up and coming though, because a lot of them have been, working hard for a long time. But we actually get a lot of submissions for our playlists on Spotify. We have some big playlists on Spotify for Celtic music. And so a lot of people send us music from around the world, and we get to listen to that. And it's really fun to hear, where all this music is coming from. There's, I can't really remember the name. Solana's the one that does the playlists, but yeah.
Do you all listen to the playlist? I mean, as far as picking the artists that are going to be on there, is it a collaborative effort, or does Solana run that entirely?
Solana is the playlister.
Okay.
So she does a lot of that work. But yeah, there's so many great bands that it's hard for me to name them. But if you listen to the playlist, that's what we want to do, is introduce all these people to new listeners. All right.
Is there a place that inspires your music?
That's a great question. Yes, there is. We live outside of Seattle, Washington, in Washington State, and Washington has beautiful nature. So we're very inspired by the mountains here, and a lot of the music that we write is very inspired by driving up over the pass on I-90. The North Cascades is a beautiful area. Just anywhere that's mountain driving, I like listening to Celtic music while driving in the mountains, and that's what inspires a lot.
I don't think we could tell that considering all of your music videos that you have on YouTube. Do you have any that are not in the mountains?
Well, maybe on the beach.
Okay. So the other thing I'd like, now I know you've been to Japan. Have y'all been to Ireland or Scotland? And if so, is there any place that you love while you were there and that you think others should visit?
Oh yeah, we have been to Ireland and Scotland, but it was many, many years ago. Ireland, we were there for the Irish Dancing World Championships. In 2007. 2008. So unfortunately, I haven't seen as much of Ireland as I would like to. We've been to Dublin and Belfast, but that was mostly for competitions. So I haven't really been around too much, but I really would like to see more. And we went to Scotland also for Worlds, and we did get to go up to Glencoe, which I love Glencoe. That was beautiful.
So then that raises an interesting, because you've made several trips to Japan. What is the most Celtic place in Japan?
That's a very good question. Well, there's actually this huge popularity of Celtic music growing in Japan, which is really cool. Yeah. But the landscape wise, I would say there's an island called Shikoku that has really beautiful nature and lots of seaside towns. So maybe that is pretty Celtic.
Sorry, it just hit me. I was like, let's check, see if we got something. Okay, so we will. If you make it to Japan, listeners, then make sure you visit. What is it, Shikoku?
Shikoku. They'll be very impressed if you go there, because I don't think very many people make it out to Shikoku, but it's a beautiful place.
All the better. All right, why don't you tell us about the final track?
All right, so we'll finish up with a track that is the third track on the album. And this one is called Lavender Moon. And this one kind of came to me while I was napping. So the whole chorus came, and it was just this sort of lovely, comforting feeling of just a sort of sense of being by the ocean with a big moon over the ocean and feeling very connected to timelessness. So this one it's called Lavender Moon.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Greta. It was wonderful chatting with you. And obviously we will have you on the podcast again because we love your music here. So
thank you so much.
All right. Here is Lavender Moon from Moment in Time by the Gothard Sisters. I hope you enjoyed that interview. If you did, make sure you visit gothardsisters.com. And coming up is an interview with the Irish Lassies. But first, I want to thank all of my amazing patrons of the podcast. Because of generous patrons like you, the Irish and Celtic Music Podcast releases new episodes nearly every single week. Your support doesn't just fund the show, it fuels a movement. It helps us share the magic of Celtic music with thousands of new listeners and grow a global community of music lovers. Your contributions pay for everything behind the scenes. Audio engineering, stunning graphics, weekly issues of the Celtic Music magazine, show promotion, and most importantly, buying the music we feature from indie Celtic artists. And if you're not yet a patron, you're missing out. Patrons get early access to episodes, music-only editions, free MP3 downloads, exclusive stories, artist interviews, and a vote in the Celtic Top 20. Which, of course, is coming soon. The Top 20 Celtic Songs and Tunes episode will be featured as the very first episode on January 1st of the new year. So stay tuned for that. Special thanks to our Celtic legends, Sean Cowley, Mike Schock, Kelly Garrett, John Sharkey White II, Linda McNeil, Gary R. Hook, Nancy Barnett, Miranda Nelson, Gerald F. Boyle, Jeff A., Dan McDade, Emma Bartholomew, Margareta Silverstone, Alan Schindler, Marty Myers, Brian McReynolds, Daniel Ide, Bruce, Rick Boyce, Dave, and Rosie Donnelly. Thank you all so much. Here is your 3-step plan to support the podcast. Number 1, go to our Patreon page. Number 2, decide how much you want to pledge every month. $4, $12, $25. Number 3, keep listening to the Irish and Celtic Music Podcast to celebrate Celtic culture through music. You can become a generous patron of the podcast on Patreon at songhinge.com. All right, now I have another great interview coming right up now. It is the Irish Lassies. I chatted with Caleb about their brand new album, Immigration Stories. The only thing I don't think I asked them about, which is ironic, but I did ask about them when I did a second interview with them for my Pub Songs and Stories, which will be coming out in next month. But the question was, why is a group of all guys named the Irish Lassies? And you can find out about that when you subscribe to Pub Songs and Stories at pubsong.com. All right, let's get on with this interview with Caleb Cotter of the Irish Lassies for their album, Immigration Stories. All right, welcome. Today we have a wonderful interview with the Irish Lassies. This is Caleb Cotter. Welcome, Caleb. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Mark. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
It is my pleasure. And y'all are out of New York. Whereabouts in New York are you?
Well, I'm out of a small city called Canandaigua, which is in the western New York region. And we're all kind of scattered. We're not all exactly from the same town, but we normally tell people we're from the Rochester area of New York.
Okay. And now you have a really big band. Can you tell us how the band came together and how on earth you manage such a big band? How many people are in your band?
Well, there's 6 of us in the band, and it's a blessing and it's a curse. Most of us have been playing together since we were kids. The band has only officially been out for a little over 3 years, but Riley, the guitar player, and we've been actually singing together since we were about 6 years old in children's choir. And the violin player, Henry, and Peter and Scott, the Smith family, I've been best friends with them since I was 10. And so all together, I've been singing with these guys for over 100 years, if you add it up, even though we've only been together playing professionally for about 3.
How do you manage 6 people, though? I mean, that is a lot of band members. I play solo, so, sometimes with a duo.
When we first started, that was something we had to talk about, because when you're in a band, a lot of times you'll get opportunities to play gigs and maybe they don't pay very well. And so it would be tempting to be like, okay, we're just going to go play this as a 2-piece. But basically from the beginning, we decided that if we all want to play, we're all going to play. And we're only going to book gigs that can fit a full 6-piece band. And that's worked out for us. And that's basically all we've ever done.
Wow. Fantastic. Well, why don't we get started with letting people know what kind of music you have? What do you want to play first? And can you tell me a little bit about the story behind it?
Oh, sure. So this album, all of the songs on the album are historic stories. And the first song on the album is called Joshua Davis. And when I first started writing the song, the way I do it is I normally start with a melody, and then whatever the melody kind of reminds me of, then I start researching a subject. So I knew I wanted it to be a song about a sailor, so I started doing some digging. And I came across this sailor named Joshua Davis, who was impressed off of an American ship in the Revolutionary War. And so I was able to find his memoirs, which are out of print, but he's the son of a dockside barber in Boston. And he he kind of gets sick of the life of being a barber's son and wants something more adventurous. So he signs aboard an American privateer where he's captured by a British ship called the HMS Surprise. And for anybody that loves historic novels, that's the ship that's used in the Aubrey Maturin series, the ship from the movie Master and Commander. He's actually impressed off of an American ship and forced to serve on that. And it takes him over a decade to get out of the British Navy. He ends up getting dropped off in Ireland and left to fend for himself, and he has to keep signing on to various ships just to make a living. And when he ultimately gets back home, he ends up signing right back on with a ship, and his story gets published and used as propaganda to justify the War of 1812.
Oh, wow. Well, here's Joshua Davis from Immigration Stories by the Irish Lassies.
As I walked down a plank dock in Boston, I heard a coxswain calling out my name. Says a life free at sea was waiting there for me, and a barber's life would never be my trade. So I signed to the 20 guns on Jason, says my goodbyes and went on board. And the feared Commander Manley was waiting there for me. We all wave farewell to loved ones on shore. Heave and stow that under, heave and roll. Put your backs into it, man, and don't ever look back home. Well, we were a happy ship in the beginning, till defiance spread throughout the crew. 50 lashes, 50 screams, as an English sail was seen. So we hurried to the cannons below. Well, we tried to run her back to Nantucket. By noon she was right on our beam, and after 2 broadsides from His Majesty's Surprise, to prison and in chains it would seem. Heave and stow that under, heave and roll. Put your backs into it, man, and don't ever look back home. I was promised friendly treatment and good wages, but for 10 months was forced to her decks, then abandoned on British shores, and the cursed captain warned, hanging if he caught me again. I was beaten, robbed, and pressed again in Dublin, and for 8 years I've tried to get back home. I finally had my chance when a Nantucket whaler passed. My return to home no longer postponed. Heave and stow that under, heave and roll. Put your backs into it, man, and don't ever look back home. Well, a barber I have been now for 3 years, and today I've heard the most troubling news. Seems that tyrant English king has pressed some Boston men, so I'll go and sign with Manley again. Heave and stow that under, heave and roll. Put your backs into it,
Very cool. Now, looking at this is your first LP, right?
Yeah, our first original LP. We've been releasing music for the past couple of years, but we've mostly focused on, traditional Irish music. And so This is our first original LP.
So, which is fantastic. And what got you, have you been writing songs for a long time? What got you started writing some new songs?
I have been writing songs for a long time. When the Lassies first started playing, like a lot of people, we started with more traditional music, and I started sneaking in some of my original songs into rehearsals. And I decided that I wanted to work on an album. When I started, though, it didn't start as the Immigration Stories album. It was just a whole bunch of songs, a mixture of new songs and old songs and new arrangements on traditional songs. And before I knew it, I had a full album's worth of original songs, and they all kind of organically started following this theme of true stories of Irish and Scottish immigrants. And I said, okay, cool. This we have a whole story here on this album.
Oh, cool. And so you developed it from that idea, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah. And why, in the world of Celtic music, songwriting is more rare, I feel like. I mean, there are certainly a lot of bands that are writing songs. And what inspired you to really dig into immigration aspects as part of your stories?
Well, a few reasons. For one, tons of us here in America, we have Celtic background from our ancestry. And so it's a great opportunity to look into the history of your own family. I've always had a love for history. One reason why I might not be saying too many times is I used to be a podcaster myself in the old days with my brother. And we had a history podcast. Oh, and so I'd already I was already pretty knowledgeable on a lot of the local history for Western New York. And so I was able to tap into that knowledge and also some personal family memoirs and things like that in writing these songs.
Are there any songs on the album that have some personal stories behind them, or?
Yes, several of them, actually. The next song you're going to hear, it's called Engines Roar. And that was written with the memoirs from my mother's third great-grandfather. His name was James Carson. And he immigrated out of Edinburgh to New York City. A lot of people take for granted how dangerous it was to immigrate back then. And this is a tragic story. But his entire family is coming across the Atlantic Ocean, and they just arrive in the New York harbor. And they're on a ship called the Emperor of Troy. And it's dark and it's stormy. And another steamship called the Noah Brown crashes into their steamship. Now, back then, Mark, it was very common for the women and the children to be separated on opposite sides of a steamship. And they would do that because you'd be on these boats for so long, it would give more privacy for the women. So, they could use the bathroom or get changed, and you wouldn't have 200 immigrant men looking at you. So they would separate the men and the women and the children on opposite sides of the ship. And tragically, the ship is struck on the side that's carrying the women and children. So my fourth great-grandfather loses his mother and his sisters on their very first day arriving in America. So that song was written with his memoirs, and the song ends with a haunting jig that is supposed to help you envision the terror and the rushing of the waters coming into the ship. And something that I'm really excited about the song is we were able to get Allie the Piper, one of the biggest celebrities in bagpiping, to play that jig on the track.
Fantastic. All right, well, let's listen to it. Here's Engines Roar.
The sky and also our field, no wheat, barley or corn did it yield. My mother says, son, it's time to go. We're heading to the new world, and I am more right than you know. So Dad sold our house, our cow and our plow, and settled his debts with a stable and sow. My ma swept the hearth and then turned the key. A new life of freedom we all tried our best to believe. engine you hear and roar. Stow away the women, the children and all. Men to the right and the women left. Enter the new world and you are more right than you guess. 2 weeks on a steamer across the great sea. We pulled in the port of New York City. Hope grew in the eyes of all that were there, but a nod in my heart warned me this joy would turn to despair. Fire up the engine you hear and roar. Stow away the women, the children and all. Men to the right and the women left. Enter the new world and you are more right than you guess. A schooner got lost on that terrible night. Iron crashed through the port, through the screams and the cries. Left side of the ship began to break through. The women and children were all who were lost in the crew. Fire up the engine you hear and roar. Stow away the women, the children and all. Men to the right and the women left. Enter the new world and you are more right than you guess. Fire up the engine you hear and roar. Stow away the women, the children and all. Men to the right and the women left. Enter the new world and you are more right than you guess.
Before we go any further, can you tell me about who's in the band and what they play?
So the old timer in the band is Scott Smith, and in a lot of ways he's responsible for the band's creation, because growing up he is who we would listen. He would play kitchen sessions, and so growing up I would always be in his house because his sons were my best friends, and so I'd hear the Celtic music all growing up. And he plays the bouzouki in our group. But that being said, he's a multi-instrumentalist. He plays the fiddle, he can play the guitar, he can basically play them all. But in our group, he pretty much plays the bouzouki. And his two sons, Henry and Scott. Henry is our violinist. He's a classically trained violinist out of Ithaca. And his brother, Peter, does most of our lead vocal singing. He's kind of our front man. And then you have Riley Keller, who is our guitar player and our high harmony singer, John Irway on the double bass, and myself, Caleb, I play the mandolin and the tenor banjo.
Okay. Well, I have a few rapid fire questions that I want to throw out to you before we finish up here. First off, name a Celtic album that inspired you growing up.
I'll have to say one of my personal favorites is a Lunasa album. It's called the Redwood album. Uh-huh. And that was kind of an instrumental soundtrack to my childhood when that album came out. I remember just keeping it on all the times, and all of my friends had the same album. So when we'd get together, a lot of people would throw that in and hearing some local people try to cover some of the music on it, that album's always stuck with me. Another one I really enjoyed was an album by David, I think it was David Kincaid. Might be getting the first name wrong, but he also specialized in kind of the similar genre of narrative storytelling, American Irish history that I like. He did a lot on Civil War music, and particularly from Irishmen in the Civil War.
Cool. Can you share an up-and-coming artist that our listeners should hear? This is a good time to promote any artists that you've run across while you've been out playing music. So.
Well, that will also give me a good segue then. And I will say that you need to check out Kinnfolk. And they are no strangers to this show, because that's actually how I met Josh and Julie, was through this show, hearing them on some of your past episodes. And because of that, I was able to get them to sing on a track on this album. Oh, nice. Oh, cool. Is there I'm assuming that's coming up on the next track. Is that what we're saying? Yes.
Okay, we'll come to that in just a second. In the meantime, is there a place that inspires your music?
Oh, definitely. It's my hometown. It's upstate New York. We live right near the Erie Canal, which is very famous for connecting the ocean to the Great Lakes. And because of that,
your name is... Sorry, I love that song.
Miles on the Erie Canal. And as I'm sure you know, it was built by the Irish. A lot of the railroads, all out of the canal. I did not know that, actually. That's awesome. Yep. So there's just there's so much history to draw from, and because a lot of these towns were built by the Irish back in the late 1800s, a lot of the families are still direct descendants from those immigrants, and they're still here to this day. So I love to pull from local history from my hometown, the city of Canandaigua, and across Western New York.
That's awesome. Now, last year when I was in Scotland, I got a message from you saying, I'm in Scotland too. But was there a place either then or that you've been to that you, in Ireland or Scotland that you absolutely loved and you recommend others should go visit?
So the Highlands of Scotland is my favorite place in the world. I've actually gone there 3 years in a row. I actually just got back 2 weeks ago doing the West Highland Way, which is a 100-mile trek from Glasgow up to Fort William.
Were you hiking?
I did that. I was. And I did that with my wife and my two sons, Gabe and Theo, who are 8 and 9. And they became quite the celebrities on the trail because it was pretty cold already. And we didn't see any other kids doing it. But I just love Western Scotland. The people are so wonderful. The music is excellent. There's still quite a bit of interest in traditional music in Scotland, and so it's a great place to go for inspiration.
Did you play any music while you were over there?
I've listened to some, but I have not played any while I was over there.
Awesome. All right, well, tell me about this final story that you want to share.
Oh, well, this is the last song on the album.
What's it called? And
it's called Whitetop Wagon, and it was inspired out of a book I was reading, a book called The Oregon Trail, written by Rinker Buck. And if maybe you've heard of him, or if you haven't heard of him, maybe you've seen something about that crazy guy that did the Oregon Trail a few years ago, actually got a wagon and a couple mules and did the Oregon Trail in the in the 2020s. And throughout his book, he's telling the history as he's actually doing the trail. And he talks about, while he's driving this wagon, how dangerous it can be, because if you think of it being on a rocking wagon for 14 hours a day, it kind of rocks you to sleep. And the danger could be that you would fall asleep and fall forward and get crushed by the wagon. Oh, wow. And he recounts a true story of some Irish immigrants who their son tragically falls forward and gets crushed by the wagon. So this family that's immigrating and looking for a better life for their family end up losing the one thing that they care most about in their attempt for a better life for the child. And so it's a very sobering, tragic tale, but the point is to tell everybody that these are things that people had to go through in order to get you where you are to this day. These stories are true, but they're not unique. You know, if you go back far enough and look, everybody has some tragedy in their family that helped inspire who they are or where they are to this day. And when I first wrote the song, I was trying to get Henry, our violin player, to sing it. He's got a beautiful voice, and he was kind of giving me some pushback. And I said, okay, fine, I guess I'll sing it. And I recorded it, and I wasn't happy with it. And I thought, hey, what if I could get this as a duet so you can get the emotion from the husband and the wife in the death of the child? So I started looking for a good featured artist to sing it with me. And I had been listening to Josh and Julie through your show, and I thought, oh, maybe Kinnfolk would come in and sing lead vocals on it, and then we can accompany them with 6-part male harmony. Nice. And they hopped right in on it, and they did a beautiful job. And I'm just so happy with the way the song turned out.
Very cool. All right, well, let's listen to Whitetop Wagon by the Irish Lassies from their album Immigration Stories. Caleb, thank you so much for joining me today, and hope we can do this again in the future.
I hope so too. Thanks for having me on, Mark.
All right. Here is Whitetop Wagon with Kinnfolk.
From Buffalo to Chicago, we went by rail. Then south to Missouri and the Oregon Trail. My son, my husband, and 5,000 more, all seeking our fortune on the Pacific shore. Whitetop wagon, roll along. On starlit nights I sing this song. Open prairie, rugged road, the western life you'll never know. We made Nebraska third week in June. The coneflowers were full in bloom. He picked a flower for his mother's hair. Our hopes and dreams and love we share. You slept on that bench 100 times, but a 1,000-pound wagon won't stop on times. I heard some commotion and a woman scream. We buried our son, had soda springs. Whitetop wagon, roll along. On starlit nights I sing this song. Open prairie, rugged road, the western life you'll never know. That was 20 years this May. We're happy and wealthy, the people say. I'd trade it all just to get him back. What's the Garden of Eden if loved ones you lack? Whitetop wagon, roll along. On starlit nights I sing this song. Open prairie, rugged road, the western life you'll never know.
I hope you enjoyed that interview, and if you did, I hope you'll visit theIrishlassies.com. You can find a link to them in the show notes for episode number 637. I have another special episode coming out next week. Stay tuned for that. In the meantime, support for this program comes from international speaker Joseph Dumond, teaching the ancient roots of the Gaelic people. Learn more about their origins at sightedmoon.com. Support for this program comes from Cascadia Cross-Border Law Group, creating transparent borders for more than 25 years, serving Alaska and the world. Find out more at cascadialawalaska.com. Support for this program comes from Hank Woodward, and support for this program comes from Dr. Annie Lorkowski of Centennial Animal Hospital in Corona, California. The Irish and Celtic Music Podcast was produced by Mark Gunn, the Celt Father, and our patrons on Patreon. The show is edited by Mitchell Peterson with graphics by Miranda Nelson Designs. Visit our website to follow the show. You'll find a link to all the artists played in this episode. Todd Wiley is the editor of the Celtic Music Magazine. Subscribe to get 34 Celtic MP3s for free, plus you'll get 7 weekly news items about what's happening with Celtic music and culture online. Best of all, you will connect with your Celtic heritage. Please tell one friend about this podcast. Word of mouth is the absolute best way to support any creative endeavor. And finally, remember, clean energy isn't just good for the planet, it's good for your wallet. Solar and wind are now the cheapest power sources in history. But too many politicians would rather protect billionaires than help working families save on their bills. Real change starts when we stop allowing the ultra-rich to write our energy policy and run our government. Let's choose affordable, renewable power. Clean energy means lower costs, more freedom, and a planet that can actually breathe. Promote Celtic culture through music at CelticMusicPodcast.com.